I'll just wait for a few more people to join us and then I'll kick it off. Okay, welcome everyone to Builders Declare Australia's 14th webinar titled ECO Pact Low Carbon Concrete. My name is Hamish White. I'm one of the founding members of Builders Declare and Director of Sanctum Homes, and I'll be your host for this evening. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today. I would also like to pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging. Today's webinar is called ECO Pact Low Carbon Concrete. Did you know that 20% of Australia's annual greenhouse gas emissions are derived from construction, with building materials a key contributor? Did you also know the amount of concrete consumed globally each year is second only to water? Some research suggests we all consume around 3 tonnes of concrete each per year. I'm going to let that sink in for a sec. That's 3 tonnes per year globally. With a world population of 7.9 billion people, that is a shitload of concrete. But please do not despair, there is hope. Wholesome's new ECO Pact range of concrete can reduce embodied carbon by 30 to 60% compared to the Australian National Life Cycle Inventory Database base case. The ECO Pact range also includes the option to achieve carbon neutrality, and how good is that for the planet? ECO Pact ZERO uses accredited carbon offsets through Climate Active to reduce embodied carbon by 100%. To tell us more about this exciting product, we are joined by 2 concrete experts from Wholesome. We have Nadir Nila, a biomaterial scientist with over 15 years experience across various parts of the construction and demolition industry in Victoria and New South Wales. Nadir is passionate about reducing his carbon footprint, concrete innovation, and sustainability. Our other guest tonight is Sushant Mane, the Regional Technical Manager for Wholesome Victoria and South Australia, and has been working with Wholesome for the past 16 years in various roles in South Australia, Queensland, and now in Victoria. Sushant moved to Australia from India in 2003 and has a master's degree in manufacturing management from University of South Australia. Sushant is passionate about everything concrete and excited to be part of the Wholesome journey of sustainability for a better future. Now, I've just noticed that Nazir, I know he's back again. He dropped out there for a second. Great, he's back. Tonight's sponsor, surprise, surprise, is Wholesome. If you're interested in learning more about Wholesome's ECO Pact range of concrete or any of the other exciting innovative concrete products, please get in touch with Nadir. Nadir, I hope you don't mind me putting your information out here for people to contact.
No, that's fine, mate.
And I do know that it's at the end of his slides too. So if you don't catch these numbers or the email now, you can always write it down at the end. But you can reach out on 03 9286 2666. There will be an email at the end, and you can also check out wholesome.com.au. All right, let's kick off today's presentation. The information you're about to receive is based on the experience of the presenters and may not relate to your own situation. If you'd like more specific advice, please get in touch with us via email. Today's webinar will be around 45 to 50 minutes, and we're going to have about 10 to 15 minutes at the end to answer any questions. Now, Sushant is joining us today because he is the technical whiz, I've been told. So please throw as many curly questions as these guys as you can. And I really hope that they can convince us that they have a pretty amazing product here because it's very exciting for builders like myself. So without further ado, I'm going to throw it over to Nadir and we'll catch up with you at the end of the presentation.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Hamish, for that. And thanks everyone for taking the time to join me today and Sushant in presenting ECO Pact and the offerings that we can present through ECO Pact at Wholesome. Without further ado, I would like to give a quick summary of what Wholesome stands for. Holcim is the first global building materials company in the world to pledge to 1.5% reduction or committing towards that, as well as achieving net zero emissions by 2050. How we achieve this, we are targeting this through science and data-driven initiatives, which are verified and certified as well, so that we can peg ourselves and work towards achieving this net zero ambition that we have. Holcim is also invested over 160 million Swiss francs towards this, which is equivalent towards $220 million so far to reduce our carbon footprint in Europe. Well, I'd like to give you a quick introduction about myself. And I am actually a biomaterial scientist. I qualified with my degree in London from Queen Mary University. I migrated to Australia in 2007. And ever since I migrated here to Australia, could never break into that market. And I was fortunate to get into the civil construction industry. I've got over 15 years of experience in various different roles in demolition and the construction industry, from concrete to quarries. I'm married with 2 little girls. I am a Pommy, but don't sound anything like it. Very passionate about sustainability and reducing my personal footprint as well. As I mentioned, I've got 2 little girls, and it saddens me at the state that we're in and what we're heading towards. So working for a company like Holcim really does invigorate me, knowing that I'm doing everything I can to push this and try and get everyone on board and do our parts in every little way that we all can to contribute towards this. And as Hamish has alluded to earlier, 3 tons of concrete are consumed per person on average, and it's only second to water globally. So that puts into perspective how much concrete is consumed, and hence why I'm very excited to talk to you about EcoPact and EcoPact ZERO and the offerings that we have available for you right now in Victoria. Sushant, this is your slide. Did you want to talk about it?
Yeah, look, hi everyone. I'm glad to be here. I'm a professional engineer with over 15 years of experience across concrete and quarry industry. I moved to Australia from India in 2003 and completed my master's in manufacturing management in University of South Australia in Mawson Lake campus in Adelaide. Again, like Ness said, I'm very passionate about concrete innovation and sustainability. And I'm proud to be a part of the business. And we do have various innovative products. If you may or may not have heard it before, like Agilia, ultra high strength concrete, Aquascreed, and EcoPact concrete as well, which we'll talk about in detail over the next few slides. And happy to take any questions at the end, or you can put it in the chat box and we can go through them together at the end of the presentation. Thanks, Naz.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, Sushant. So what's happening, the state of play within the construction industry? We know concrete is everywhere. It's a beautiful material to play with. There's so many things that can be done with it. It's such a versatile product. But at the same time, there are lots of different things that are coming into play with regards to how we are looking at making concrete sustainable. Green Star is looking at targeting and reducing the carbon footprint by 40% in 2030. There's a new standard that will be coming out called Green Star Homes, and all the various state departments from New South Wales to WA, Vic Roads, main roads in Queensland, they all have their own little standards and work methodologies that they try and support financially to try and incentivize people to be more sustainable and more conscious in how they go about building infrastructure and so forth. I wanted to give you guys a bit of context with regards to how much carbon we can actually reduce by looking at reducing the embodied carbon in concrete. Concrete is a very carbon intensive product. We know that from all the GP Portland cement that is consumed within concrete matrix. So to give you some examples, if we were to reduce the actual emissions, the embodied carbon by 60% in an average house slab, that equates to about 15 tons of carbon. That's equivalent to a household's carbon emissions for close to 2 years. To put it into a different perspective, in an infrastructure project with about 150,000 cubic meters of concrete, if that was reduced by 60%, the embodied carbon, we're looking at about 44,000 tons of carbon that is removed, or the equivalent of 23,000 cars off the road for a year. The same could be said for something like an average build of 20 cubic meters of concrete. If that was reduced, the embodied carbon by 60%, we're looking at about 6 million kilowatt hours of electricity consumed that are saved in terms of carbon emissions, which equates to about 5,800 tons of carbon. So as you can see, these all stack up pretty quickly, and hence why I'm very excited to talk to you about what EcoPact offers. In Australia, if all the concrete that's consumed is reduced, that we actually take a stand and reduce the embodied carbon by 60%, that's close to 8 million tons of carbon that we could remove or reduce per year. EcoPact can reduce the embodied carbon between 30 to 60% compared to the Australian National Life Cycle Inventory database. So it's all backed by science and all by third parties to make sure that what we do present to you and the concrete that is supplied is verified and accredited by third parties to ensure that what you get is actually has the lowest carbon possible, and it is all certified and above board. So I'd like to take you guys through some elementary topics with regards to how we go about reducing the carbon footprint. Typically, most concrete has Portland cement, which is very intense in carbon. We can add different byproducts or waste products from different industries into concrete to try and mitigate the amount of Portland cement that's actually used to achieve a strength grade or performance. We've got quite a few different materials here in front of us. I'll start off with fly ash. Fly ash is a byproduct from the coal power stations. That, when it's used within concrete, it can be taken as high as 35% replacement of Portland cement. And it's a good way of using a byproduct from a different industry and thereby reduce the actual cement content by using something like fly ash. You've got things like slag, which is a byproduct from steel mills, which would further be used as a replacement for Portland cement. And you got finally silica fume, which is from ferrous metals and from computer chips. You can use these waste byproducts either on their own as a standalone, or you could actually use it as a combination across all three. Holcim is actually working on a fourth product, which we plan on launching sometime in the middle or early 2022. Sushant and I are very excited about this innovation because what it would do is it will help us drastically reduce the carbon footprint of the concrete while giving us superior properties in terms of early age strength as well as shrinkage. Once we have a bit more information regarding that, and I think at the end of this webinar, I'm sure Sushant will be able to give you a little bit more insights as to what's possible with GreenCem. And if anyone has any other questions regarding that, please do raise that towards the end of this presentation. So let's get into what EcoPact is about. To begin with, EcoPact is all about reducing the carbon footprint, and we have two different offerings of EcoPact. To begin with, EcoPact starts whereby we look at the embodied carbon within a concrete strength grade, and we want to reduce that embodied carbon by 30 to 60%. So for whatever strength grade we're looking at, 20 MPa all the way up to, I believe it's 60 or 80 MPa, we want to achieve a reduction in embodied carbon between 30 and 60%. Now, what we do offer with EcoPact ZERO is where we reduce the carbon as low as possible physically without compromising on the physical properties that we want with concrete that we all are familiar with and or that we all like to use. The remaining carbon we can offset with through climate active carbon offsets and thereby achieve carbon neutrality. I'll go into a bit more detail regarding climate active and how these carbon offsets work, but take it for now that EcoPact would provide us with an option without being commercially unviable, whereby we can achieve carbon neutral concrete. So the features of EcoPact that we do provide is that it gives you guys the ability to align with the global direction that we have. We've all seen how COP26 turned out, people making pledges to try and reduce the carbon footprint. Holcim was one of the only construction material companies at the COP26 pushing for ambitious targets. As I stated earlier in one of the first slides, we're the only construction company globally that has actually committed to net zero by 2050. We want people to take this on board. So we are very passionate about EcoPact and we want to align with that global direction. By using EcoPact, you gain a competitive advantage. You have the option of going carbon neutral, and they all do come with EPDs, environmental product declarations, which thereby help us enable and quantify how much carbon there is within a cubic meter of concrete. As I indicated earlier, you take your standard concrete, you add byproducts, waste streams such as fly ash, slag, silica fume, and this next generation of green cementitious material, and we reduce that carbon footprint as low as possible. Once we get that as low as possible, the remaining carbon that's entrained within the concrete, we can offer carbon offsets that are accredited through climate active to achieve that carbon neutrality without any loss in performance. What is an EPD? Some of these terms are quite new to some of us. It was new to me when I started back in the business recently. So an EPD is an independently verified and registered document that communicates and is transparent, and it gives us a view as to the life cycle environmental impacts of the products. Things that they look at are the consumption of energy in the process of making a product, water, renewable sources, emissions to air, water, and soil. It's all integrated together, and it helps us understand exactly what the carbon footprint is for a product for the entire life cycle of a product that's been offered and certified by an EPD. Climate active. So as I alluded to earlier, once we take EcoPact and reduce our carbon footprint as low as possible, we've partnered with Climate Active to oversee the carbon offsets that we do provide for EcoPact ZERO. Thereby, we can guarantee that any remaining carbon that we have within our concrete is offset through Climate Active. So the carbon offsets are generated from activities that prevent, reduce, and remove greenhouse gas emissions from being released into the environment. When these offsets are purchased by an organization that equals the emissions produced, thereby resulting in a carbon neutral product. Climate active certification is one of the most vigorous in the world. So by partnering with someone such as Climate Active, we gain credibility with regards to the products that we do offer you, and it enables us to be confident in what we do propose to the market. Well, we like to take the opportunity to make these challenges that we face with regards to sustainability and use that as an opportunity to differentiate ourselves from competitors. It helps people that take these products on to be able to further boost your sustainability credentials. It provides you guys with the opportunity to provide sustainable solutions in your tendering processes. The reason I highlight this is there are more and more people coming on board, such as the Green Council of Australia, ISCA, and also some of the state bodies with regards to infrastructure projects, which are calling for more and more sustainable products. And these products will help you guys differentiate your offerings in the tendering process, whereby you guys stand head and shoulders above anyone else in the market that aren't taking new offerings to the market with regards to products or services. And these are backed by science and by authorities such as Climate Active. So they are credible, and it makes a real difference in how we go about doing the best we can to achieve this carbon neutral target of 2050. Using EcoPact gives you an advantage. So this slide is more a summary of what I've just discussed previously. It is an innovative solution in your tendering process, makes your marketing stand out. So you would have the opportunity to stand up above and differentiate yourself from your competitors. It is an Australian first. So 2-3 years back, Wholesome launched an EPD into concrete, whereby we could quantify how much carbon there is within a cubic meter of concrete. It was the first in Australia, and we've just taken it one step further by branding it as EcoPact and then offering EcoPact ZERO with climate active carbon offsets. We will then thereby be able to achieve carbon neutral goals and targets. They are going to get recognized by Green Star and ISCA, and as more and more people start talking this language, it will get picked up more frequently. And we hope that this is going to be a trend, and a trend to stay, as well as a trend for people to jump on board with and have further acceptance across the markets. These are a couple of quick snippets of things that I've seen recently. So this article was talking about the energy efficiency standards in Australia. And this is a document that I just picked up off the internet as early as August 2021. There's an actual Building Sustainable Futures by Green Building Council of Australia. I would advise and encourage everyone here to actually take the time to read this hefty document, because it'll detail on ways, whether that be products or services that you guys can take on board to help differentiate yourself and be more sustainable in your offerings and the tender process that you guys can take. And the last picture here is looking at actual studies done, academic studies done, whereby it shows that being sustainable is not necessarily detrimental from an economical perspective, but it actually can create more jobs. It can create, there's more commercial reward by being more sustainable in the long run. So there is a lot of noise out there saying being more sustainable can actually be detrimental to us economically. But the information out there, and there's a growing amount of information out there, which shows that being sustainable is the way forward, and it actually helps generate more income, more jobs, and it is a more sustainable way to live moving forward. Recently, Wholesome actually was invited to this summit, so the Sustainable Infrastructure Summit. It was unfortunately in a virtual summit due to the COVID environment that we're in. But what was very pleasing from this was the huge number of people on board with trying to drive a sustainable outcome. We got people even from calling for things such as Melbourne Water, you got South Australia Water, you got MRPV projects, you got all these different bodies and authorities that are calling for sustainable goals and targets. And then you've got designers that are actually jumping on board and supporting this. And you've got contractors such as CPB, Downer, Acciona, BMG, that actually want to jump on board and support the whole value chain all the way through. And you've got suppliers such as ourselves, and you've got others as well in the market for various other products and offerings that are also turning that page and seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, that sustainability is a way that we should all be focusing. So what was really encouraging by being at this summit was that it wasn't just us talking about it. The whole value chain and the key stakeholders in driving such a change, they're all working in the same direction. So having this opportunity to even talk to you guys about this EcoPact offering and the sustainability goals that Holcim has is perfect, because it's going around a whole circle, and it just makes it much more easier, and I hope it becomes mainstream and more accepted as we move into the next year and so forth. These slides here look at different ways that we can actually reduce our carbon embodied emissions in our building and construction industry. The graph at the bottom left looks at a 30-year life cycle with regard to carbon emissions. The largest emissions that we typically see in a construction design or construction project is typically in the construction phase, the products and the processes. So a product such as EcoPact, whereby we can take our products, I know concrete makes a component of a building, it makes a significant component of the building. So if we can reduce that initial green spike in that graph and take the carbon component of concrete down to zero with EcoPact ZERO, it makes a significant difference in the life cycle emissions of that project. Then there's another strategy with regard to how we can look at doing things different. So you'd start with things like build nothing, but as a growing population, this is not an acceptable method to work with. So you look at things like repurposing things, refurbishing buildings, or you take the next less invasive approach, which would be to build less and build only what is required. A strategy that you take even further to reduce your carbon, embodied carbon in your construction phase, would be to build clever. And this is where products such as ours really come and assist you guys in achieving your carbon reduced targets, such as reusing materials. So as I alluded to, using things like slag, using things like fly ash, using things like silica fume. These are reused products. These are waste streams that we can add and put back into products such as concrete, whereby we reuse materials and lower the amount of waste that we have in this world. Further to that, we can use products that lower the carbon footprint. This is where things like EcoPact and EcoPact ZERO further adds to this. And then finally, we have things such as build efficiently, minimizing design loads. We've got products such as Agilia, which I'll show you a quick video of, which looks at how you can build a bit more efficiently, a little bit faster. And then finally, minimizing waste. And typically things like precast elements, in situ builds, these things whereby we reuse as much as we can and minimize our waste streams are ways that we can reduce the total embodied carbon within a construction phase. So in summary, EcoPact that we offer is low carbon concrete. It's actually available in a large variety of concrete offerings, from 20 MPa all the way up to 80 MPa. We can do curb out of this, we can do footpaths, we can do various types of slumps, all the way from 80 slump or 10 mil slump, all the way up to super workable concrete. So there's actually no limitation. I would encourage you to follow up and chase myself or Shashank and challenge us to actually design what others would consider impossible, because both of us are very passionate about innovation and sustainable outcomes. And so I would encourage you guys to pick up the phone, email myself, or give me a call and ask what can we do, basically, because EcoPact is available in a large variety of strength grades, and I'm very confident we can find products for you that would fit the purpose for whatever job site you have. What else is there? It is very similar to conventional concrete, and very importantly, it pumps, places, and finishes as normal conventional concrete. So we're very mindful of the fact that we don't want to change the goalpost too much, whereby we offer a product that reduces carbon, but no one adopts it because everyone has to re-educate themselves on using a product that everyone's familiar with. We know how the industry is typically very slow to move and take up innovation. So EcoPact, we've made it as easy and as simple as possible for anyone to take on concrete, whereby it is carbon neutral, or at the very least, the carbon footprint or the embodied carbon is reduced as much as possible within EcoPact, between 30 and 60%. Now, I've got some nice graphs here, a bit of technical information. I'm sure some of you guys here would like some of these graphs, and some of you would wish I moved on, but just for the purposes of communicating to everyone out here, the graph that we have in front of us looks at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different grade strengths of concrete, all the way from 20 MPa up to 50 MPa. The vertical axis looks at the greenhouse gas emissions per cubic meter of concrete. The gray graphs that we have per strength grade in front of us looks at the typical life cycle analysis of how much carbon we would have within per cubic meter of concrete. So you can look at that and say how, by adding elements such as fly ash, slag, or even a ternary blend, we reduce that carbon footprint as low as possible. EcoPact takes that, and using our internal science, our internal experience, with what we've done with sustainable concrete, we've taken that even further as much as possible. Once that embodied carbon is reduced as much as possible within that 30 to 60%, depending on the strength grade and application, any remaining carbon, we partner with Climate Active and provide those carbon offsets to take it down to zero. Typically, when we look at low carbon concrete, the biggest hindrance that we have is early age strength. So I know the market that I'm presenting to right now, some of you all may be familiar with what post-tension concrete is. Some of you may not be, but just for just to make it easy for everyone here in front of me, post-tension slabs have certain requirements. They need a certain strength at 28 days, which is 40, 50 MPa typically. But to try and have for them to be able to be tensioned so that you end up squashing the concrete through the steel reinforcement that's within it. The steel reinforcement is jacked up typically at 4 days or 5 days. And the concrete needs to achieve a certain strength so that in the process of jacking up the steel reinforcement, none of it rips out. Typically, what is called for in the market is 22 MPa at 4 days or 3 days. It depends on the schedule of what's required. Some schedules call for 2 days, some 3, and so forth. I'm pleased to announce that with EcoPact, Shashank and I have, more so Shashank, he's done a lot of work behind this, and he's very confident that we can actually achieve 22 MPa in 4 days by also reducing our embodied carbon by 35%. Now, we can reduce that embodied carbon further, but if we did reduce it further, the consequence of that is that 4-day strength of 22 MPa would creep up to 5 days. And if you reduce that even further, it would creep up to 6 days and so forth. But on average, this industry typically calls out for 22 MPa at 4 days. And very pleased to announce that we can offer you an EcoPact version of a PT application. I mentioned earlier that we're working on the next evolution of cementitious additives. This cementitious additive is going to be a game changer. It provides a superior strength at early ages, such as 1 to 7 days, but at the same time, it provides us very low shrinkage, which is of benefit in certain applications. So in 2022, mid 22 or early 22, we hope to have this commercialized and ready and have it as an offering into the market. This will enable us to achieve strength of 22 MPa and above as early as 2 days or 3 days, whilst also reducing the embodied carbon higher than 35%. But I do warn you that this comes at a cost. So it all comes down to risk reward, as well as what we can achieve and what kind of sustainable targets that we are targeting at a project level. Typically, with options that we can have and add into concrete to try and reduce the embodied carbon, fly ash is the least reactive of the two elements that we can add to reduce the carbon footprint. When we do add fly ash into the mix, being an EcoPact offering, we need to add a significant amount of fly ash. This results in the strength growth not being as superior as we would like it to be. Fly ash and GP are combinations that we have more common in Victoria than with GP, fly ash, and slag. The reason I brought this graph up is to try and show you what we can achieve and some of the limitations that we work around. Typically, concrete strength is guaranteed at 28 days. This is something most people are familiar with, whether it be 20 MPa at 28 days or 40 MPa at 28 days. As soon as we make EcoPact with a binary blend, which is GP and fly ash, and we push that fly ash percentage as high as possible, so it falls within the window of what EcoPact is, and reduce that embodied carbon between that 30 and 60%. What ends up happening is we can't guarantee that 28-day strength at 28 days. But looking at the data, we can see that 28-day strength, the target strength of 20 MPa or 32 MPa, 25 or 50 MPa, we typically achieve that at 29 days, 30 days, 31 days. But from a reporting perspective, in terms of a supplier providing concrete to the market, we are held to certain standards. So it calls for, is your concrete 28-day strength? If it's not, you are forced to call it 56-day strength. So Shashank, did you want to add to this?
Yeah, so look, what you mentioned, so it's basically due to the limitations of our concrete plants as well, because not every concrete plant has got enough footprint and enough infrastructure to carry all the supplementary cementitious materials like fly ash and slag and silica fume. So due to those limitations, some of the concrete plants do carry all these cementitious products, and some carry only GP and fly ash. And due to the reactivity, and it's about the variability we see in the test results as well, that 95 and 5% rule. So basically what we are saying is that once we use only binary blend, which is Portland cement and fly ash combination, to make an EcoPact concrete, the strength is guaranteed at 56 days. However, we know that the strength is achieved approximately that 30 to 35 days itself. However, from the reporting point of view, it is reported as a 56-day compliant mix.
So the reason we wanted to highlight this is typically when people look at some of the trends and we say, oh, we can do EcoPact and we've got a binary plant available closest to your job site. And then we look at mixes and we talk mixes and we provide you prices for whatever mix, and you see 56 days. I don't want you guys to get alarmed and go, wow, I can't wait 56 days for a slab or whatever else to get that target strength that I need. What I want you to understand is we are achieving that literally 4 or 5 days behind schedule, but on average, typically, we have that leniency at a job site. So we really want to highlight, be as transparent as possible with everyone that we deal with, to explain that we can achieve EcoPact and EcoPact ZERO with binary blends, but in terms of a reporting perspective, in the purpose of being transparent, we can't report it as 28-day strength. We are forced to report it as 56. But in terms of the actual strength inherent within the concrete supply, it does achieve that strength a couple of days behind schedule. That's all. Now, I know I do have a wide audience in front of me. This shows a footprint of all the plants that we have within Victoria. We have concrete plants all the way from Bairnsdale in the far east to Inverloch in the south, Ventor in Phillip Island, all the way north up to Epping, and then far west as Colac. So we can offer EcoPact offerings in binary as well as ternary blends across all these plants. So the reason I put this up is I know some of you have spoken to in person when I've been in Gippsland. I've been looking forward to this presentation. I hope there are other people in the far west and far north. I just want you to know that wherever your jobs are, I'm pretty confident that Holcim can provide you EcoPact concrete and help you achieve some of these sustainability goals that everyone here is trying to target. So in summary, EcoPact comes with the lowest carbon we can physically get it down to. It reduces the embodied carbon between 30 and 60%, and we provide equivalent strength to conventional concrete. It's recognized and rewarded by industry bodies such as Green Star and Infrastructure Sustainability. There's less environmental impact, and it helps conserve our natural resources. EcoPact ZERO takes all the good work of EcoPact, which comes with an EPD, and then we partner with Climate Active to actually achieve that carbon neutrality by providing carbon offsets for the remaining carbon that's embodied within the concrete. You don't have to do anything with regards to the carbon offsets. As soon as you indicate to Holcim that you plan on using EcoPact ZERO for whatever strength grade, I make a note of that. It's tabulated. Shashank is made aware of what kind of concrete is consumed at what volume, and at a certain time per year, whether that be December or mid-year, we would then approach you to say, here you go, these are your carbon offsets for the volume of concrete you consumed, and you can then use those certificates to provide back to whichever project manager you're working with or industry body you're working with to show that you have actually achieved carbon neutral concrete. Did you want to add anything to that, Shashank?
No, I think you covered it pretty good.
Okay, all right, beautiful. Now, with all this work that we've done, as I alluded to earlier, Holcim globally has spent close to $220 million to achieve some of this work regarding EcoPact. It is great pleasure to know that some of this good work has been rewarded. We are the first in terms of carbon neutral concrete to be offered in Australia. Recently, we were awarded the best green building material, as well as best of the best at the Sustainability Awards for Architecture and Design. So this is a thank you, because I know some of the audience here are actually members of this and judges. So it's great pleasure to be recognized for some of the work that Holcim's put in, and taking that plunge to actually do something that no one else is doing and taking that risk on, because we firmly believe that this is the way forward and this is how everyone should be working towards sustainable goals. The next couple of slides are very light. They would work through things such as understanding the context in terms of quantifying carbon. So say, for example, the Sydney Harbour Bridge, if all the concrete within that was reduced by 60%, that would be the equivalent of about 15,000 cars off the road for 1 year. The next, we have a commercial building, 25 stories. If you achieve 60% reduction in embodied carbon, that's close to 4,000 cars off the road. And mind you, this is 60% reduction. We're not talking about 100% reduction with EcoPact ZERO. So you can see how this stacks up pretty quickly. We take a typical house slab and we take that to 60% reduction in embodied carbon. That's the equivalent of removing 8 cars off the road for 1 year. Minor civil jobs such as a skate park, if that was reduced by 60%, that's the equivalent of removing 10 cars off the road for 1 year. Wholesome, as I alluded to earlier, is very dedicated to moving forward in this space. We want to do this in not just our products, but also in terms of how we operate as a business. Wholesome's launched something called EasyBiz. So what this means is we are able to provide you dockets for the deliveries of concrete paperless, whereby we partnered with Google Play and Apple Store, whereby we've created an app called EasyBiz. Using this app, you can very easily track the movements of your orders. You can find out in real time how far your truck is from your job site. You could use it to actually go backwards and find delivery dockets. You can use it for invoicing purposes, and it's available 24/7. So we're trying to move away from the convention of providing paper dockets with each of our deliveries, and we employ people to take this up, because then this is another step towards us at Wholesome achieving carbon neutrality. In addition to this, most of the company cars that are presented to the salespeople are hybrid in nature, thereby it's further reducing that carbon footprint. I know that in Switzerland, Wholesome has pushed an electric concrete agitator truck. I would love to see that come across here in Australia, but these are some of the initiatives that Wholesome's taking, and being a leader to be the first to move in some of these applications. I've got 2 slides here, 2 brochure documents. I'm happy to share them with you. I've got an electronic document. We're trying to be paperless here. That would talk to and provide a little bit more information regarding EcoPact and EcoPact ZERO. So if anyone needs to get a bit more information regarding this, have something at hand that they could pass on via an email, so that we can increase awareness of some of these green offerings that Wholesome has, please reach out to me and I can pass you some of these documents. And please watch out for some of our EcoPact trucks. And they are out there. I know there's 4 in Melbourne and 1 in Gippsland. And I'm pushing for more and more of these trucks to be rebranded with EcoPact, so that more people do ask the question, what is that? What is EcoPact? And come back and ask the question, and then challenge people like myself and Sushant in Victoria. Sushant does look after South Australia as well, by the way, with regards to pushing sustainable concrete. Now, this is a slide most people will be waiting for. Sustainable stuff typically is not commercially viable, or that's what people talk about. They say it's expensive, I can't do this now. It's a pipe dream. Maybe it's good when things are more commercially viable, or the price of carbon drops. Well, I've put together a slide here to try and explain to you how we're trying to work through this to make sure that there's further adaptation of carbon neutral concrete. So I've taken an example here of a 40 MPa, and these numbers, I wish I could tell you concrete at these prices, but these are just fictional numbers so that you guys have a gauge as to what you can expect in terms of a price point if you did go down the avenue of using green concrete. So depending on your price point that you achieve, that you buy your concrete at, say for example, a 40 MPa concrete is sold to you conventionally at $100 a cubic meter. If you were to go and say, okay, that mix, I'm interested, I want to use that as an EcoPact, you can pay up to $10 more per meter. So what do you get with EcoPact? You get embodied carbon reduced to between 30 and 60%. And also you get an EPD with that concrete. That helps you understand exactly how much carbon you have per cubic meter of concrete. You can use this information to say, okay, I don't need to go to EcoPact ZERO. I'm happy with EcoPact. I know exactly how much concrete I've consumed. I know exactly how much carbon I have in per cubic meter of concrete. The rest of the carbon, I'll offset it with water remediation, more efficient energy appliances, shading, orientation, and so forth. If you did want to go down the avenue of carbon neutral concrete, well, we want to make that as easy and transparent as possible. As I mentioned earlier, we are partnered with Climate Active for the carbon offsets. We are literally passing the cost of these carbon offsets 100% without any markup. So what that means is the prices for carbon offsets per cubic meter of concrete, regardless of what strength grade, or if it is a binary blend or a ternary blend of concrete, it is a fixed number. So the price for carbon offsets per cubic meter in 2021 is $3 and $5 in 2022. So if anyone here using this example that I've presented in front of you was to say, okay, I want EcoPact ZERO, you would be paying $113 in 2021 and $115 in 2022. As we push EcoPact concrete, and with the lovely weather that we have in Melbourne, which is typically fluctuating up and down and more towards the colder side, I do want you guys to be aware that GP Portland cement is typically the one that gives us most of the robust properties of concrete, whether that be strength, whether that be set time, and so forth. So as we use more and more supplementary cementitious materials such as slag, silica fume, or fly ash, we do start to compromise on some of the set times. But keeping that in mind, we are very confident that you wouldn't expect to see a couple of hours of concrete taking to go off. You're looking at maximum up to 90 minutes, like for like. So we're not expecting people's projects to blow out further than required. But saying that, you can offset some of these using accelerants, using hot water, and so forth. Shashank, did you want to add anything further to that?
No, look, there has been some chat, and I'm actually answering some of the questions in the chat box as well in the meantime. So
okay, good stuff. I've been ignoring that for a bit. So good stuff, Shashank. All right, these are just some questions that I had. I'm sure you guys would have more questions to go through, so I'm not going to go through some of these. And Shashank's been doing a brilliant job with this. Shashank alluded to a couple of value-added products that we have. There's a big product called Agilia that really got me excited. And this is a product that I helped launch a couple of years back with the help of Shashank in Victoria and South Australia. This concrete scares concreters. The reason I say it scares concreters is when they look at it, we all know how concreters love concrete to be wet. Well, this is so wet that they can't look at it, and they look at it and go, this is wrong. It shouldn't exist. But it does, and it provides beautiful finishes. There are different grades of it. There's no requirement to vibrate it. And it's beautiful for vertical elements, architectural finishes, I know some of the builders that I have on this forum do high multi-million-dollar homes. If the proper care and attention is taken in placing this product, you will have very good finishes. Now, those pictures I've shown you there, the customer is happy with. They're not the best, but they are a vast improvement from what they had initially with conventional concrete. There's added benefits of using this product, such as reduction in labor, improved productivity, and less patchwork and remediation work following stripping formwork. I would like to show you guys a video now, if I could, just 1 second.
Just to add to that, we know that with the modern structures now are being more and more complex, and especially in the CBD, we have seen some of the steel design. It is very difficult to get the vibrator down, and this product actually works into those complex structures where you do not need vibration and still get a lot better finish than a traditional concrete. And obviously it reduces your time and overall labor, because you only need one person to place that concrete rather than 2 or 3 people, or even more sometimes.
Srisan, can you see this video I have in front of you?
No.
You can't? Okay. Stop. You see this now?
Yes.
Okay. So Agilia concrete is designed very unconventionally. Typically, people look at concrete and design it according to strength and application. This video that I'm going to show you gives you an idea of how the fluid nature of concrete within Agilia is created. So this video is looking at how different materials are staged, quantities are worked out, and we achieve fluidity of the concrete inherently with the materials itself, as opposed to relying on admixtures to achieve that. So this is a bit of sand that's been added in. I know this is a lab trial, a bit of water added in, and this guy is just mixing it. He's added some cementitious material, which we typically have in concrete, sorry. He added more powder now. A typical thinking would result in all of us thinking it's just going to get more and more gluggy. But as I mentioned earlier, Agilia is all about the matrix of different materials rolling on top of each other and creating a fluid nature itself, not relying on admixtures to actually achieve that. This is the science behind Agilia. It creates a fluid concrete without the requirement of using excessive amounts of admixtures. Okay, I'm also going to show you an actual live. Can you see this, Srisan? Yep, okay. So this is an actual vertical element being poured using a kibble. It's one of the account managers standing there at the bottom while I'm dangling there at 2-3 meters above the ground. Just going to fast forward this video a bit. So this column here typically took 3 people close to 10 minutes to pour. The length of this video is just over 2 minutes. But what we can see is there's no vibration required. They're just placing it in. And you could very quickly start to see the concrete inherently from within the element start to rise up. It's pretty level across the whole surface. You just about start to see the concrete element itself. So it encapsulates all the reinforcement, as Srisan alluded to earlier, and it eliminates any requirement for vibration. And finally, we've got another product that Sushant and I are working on into the future called Aquascrete. This will be typically 20 up to 32 MPa possibly, and it's designed around permeable concrete. This potentially has opportunities in the sustainability front as ways of mitigating or conserving water within a job site and preventing it running off away from a job site, further adding to some of your green credentials. And that brings us to the end of our presentation. These are my contact details, so please reach out to me if you did need any further clarification. You want me to run through some of this stuff again, happy to do that in person within each of your organizations if required, or just to have a chat or a coffee and see what we can do next regarding pushing sustainability. Thank you all, and thank you, Hamish, for giving myself and Sushant this opportunity.
No problems at all. Now, we've had an incredible amount of questions come through, and if everybody's happy to hang around for a little bit, I'm going to try and go through all of them, but there's about 40 plus questions here. So I might just cherry pick a few here, or we're going to be here all night. But thanks very much, guys. It was really informative, and a lot of positive feedback has come through. There are a couple of questions in here which I wouldn't mind throwing to you, because I think there's some everyone's sort of still thinking that concrete's this sort of bad word. But look, I'll start off by saying this is from an anonymous attendee. Given that we're going to be moving away from coal-powered stations, is there enough slag and fly ash to supply the market for Australia that uses 6% replacement? If we move away from coal-powered electricity, how will that affect things?
Yeah, look, I'll talk about those couple of points. So first thing is we talk about up to 60% reduction in carbon emission. So right now, if you look at our ECO Pact mixes, they're typically between 40 to 45% reduction from the baseline, and we can design up to 60% depending upon the application and the project requirement. And we need to work with every project differently to make that work. Now, when it comes to fly ash and slag, look, at this stage, we understand that the fly ash and slag, there is no uncertainty for the next 10 to 15 years from what we know of, especially with the Cement Australia, who looks after all our cementitious products, take a long-term view and have got the contracts with our external providers. Now, we get a fine grade fly ash from an industry which is used into concrete production. However, there is millions of tons of medium grade fly ash that is sitting there. And we are doing some extensive research in the background, which I'm sure it will be fruitful over the next number of years, and we will continue to use fly ash in concrete. Now, in terms of slag, again, I think slag is going to be the future. We are utilizing more and more slag into Victoria. There will be a more, and actually we are using all the slag that is available in the marketplace. Now, there's going to be increased capacity of slag supply from middle of next year as well. So I think all the concrete companies and cement companies are looking for this long-term view of securing those long-term deals, especially into slag as well. And like I said, research is ongoing with fly ash and other pozzolanic materials. So I'm sure in 10, 15 years time, there'll be some other products available like lithium ash or other products which we can definitely utilize into the concrete.
Just to add to what Sushant said at the end, believe it or not, rice husk has pozzolanic characteristics. So there are a lot of products out there that are unknown to the general public that can be used to create pozzolanic reactions to further add to the reduction in Portland cement. So yes, fly ash and slag may dwindle in 30 years and so forth, but Wholesome is committed to net zero. There are ways to work around it, and we're looking at new and further products to actually reduce that embodied carbon.
Creating cement naturally reduces carbon dioxide from the chemical reaction. Is there any technology on the horizon to make cement production carbon neutral?
I don't believe so, because cement by inherently to get the properties needs to be burned out. The limestone and the oxides needs to be burned around that 1450 degrees. Now, how that burning takes place is really something from the cement company's point of view. But at this stage, that is how we get all the pozzolanic properties and the wonderful durability properties we get from the concrete. There is a lot of work going on into the geopolymer concrete, as everybody or some of you might know of, but at this stage, the durability of that concrete is a big question mark. And there needs to be still a lot of research to understand how that can come into the mainstream concrete production.
If you guys Google something called ECO Planet up in Europe, they've actually started to put some concrete demolition waste back into the grinder clinker process of creating Portland cement, and thereby further reducing the carbon emissions in the production of GP cement. Within Australia, there are strict standards with regards to additives added into cement, because there's certain properties that need to be met, and some of these limitations inhibit us going down that avenue. But there are opportunities, but as Shushan mentioned, producing GP is a carbon intensive product. So using things like tires, for example, as a fuel medium in the burning of the clinker, there are a couple of different initiatives in place to try and reduce the actual carbon footprint. There's actually a cement plant in Switzerland, I believe, who basically has put a carbon capture and storage plant next to their cement production plant to literally produce cement at net zero, basically, by capturing all the emissions from the production of GP cement. So there are options out there, but when that is likely to happen in Australia, I can't answer.
This question's come up a couple of times. Is the EcoPact product climate active, carbon neutral certified?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Because there was, and again, I'll throw the curly questions at you guys, because there was a comment here saying that it's currently not listed on the Climate Active website.
Okay, that's fine. They are.
Look, I mean, EcoPact ZERO is the service what is provided now. So as I mentioned in that other chat as well, that our objective is to reduce the carbon dioxide greater than 30% up to 60% in the first place. Now, Climate Active, we purchase credits like anybody else. Even our customers can do exactly the same. So Naz may have mentioned it before, but we do not put any margin on the carbon offset. So we produce concrete and we provide service on getting those credits from Climate Active, so that you don't have to do that extra process. We do that for you as a part of that offering of EcoPact product. So EcoPact ZERO is not a product as such, but it comes up as a service with our EcoPact product if you choose to go down the carbon neutral path.
So I've got to answer. I got to ask all the questions, even the curly ones. Sorry, guys.
Sure.
No, please do.
What is the recycling capabilities of the EcoPact? Can it be crushed at the end of life and be utilised in alternative products as with standard concrete?
Yes, there is no reason we cannot. Now, in terms of utilizing the recycled products in the concrete itself, so now EcoPact does have another brand associated with it, which is the EcoPact Plus, which we will be launching over the next 12 months' time. So that is utilizing the alternate coarse aggregate, that is the crushed concrete and crushed glass and any other products to utilize into concrete. Right now, we are utilizing into the crushed rock pavement type material, 30 to 50% into every crushed rock we sold from our major quarries in Melbourne. However, we haven't really introduced that into the concrete. But this is the EcoPact mix is like a traditional concrete with a lower embodied carbon in it. So once the structure is demolished in 25, 30, 50 years time, it can be used exactly the same as if we do it next year and bring it back to the quarries and crush that and utilize back into the concrete production.
I'm going to ask another couple more and then I'm probably going to wind it up. How is the EcoPact product different to Boral's Envirocrete?
Look, I don't know the composition of their product. Our concrete comes in with the EPD, which is the third party verified. So you will get the full EPD on it. Now, if I put my industry hat on, yes, every company will be following Holcim and even I think Boral and Hansen in some states have launched their own EPDs and the product. The one thing I will say is that you will get a great service and a great technical expertise from us. What Naz mentioned about the green cement. So it is a special activator which we are launching next year. We've already done some trials and it has some great potential out there to push that Portland cement as reduce that Portland cement as much as we can and still retain that early age properties and also reduce shrinkage.
Cool. I mean, it's great. It's great to see like all the big concrete companies, you know, moving towards a greener future. I mean, I think it's a positive. I'll get to. Sorry, Naz.
Sorry, Hamish, just to add to that, with the EcoPact, what I would try to add is that we have a large range of applications for different strength grades as well. And we are a bit more versatile. I would say that we have a lot of versatility in terms of different applications of EcoPact concrete. So have a look at Envirocrete, see what kind of offerings they have. And yeah, I think there's a lot more flexibility with the offerings that we can provide to the market.
So this is a question from a builder, which is, I think is a really great question because I think it might be on the lips of a few people watching. Is there anything we need to consider regarding weather temperature when ordering? Do we need to specify winter or summer mixes as per normal concrete?
I think Naz did mention that, yes, look, lowering the Portland cement in the mix does have some impact on the set time. However, it's only in the winter time. In the summertime, it's actually a lot more beneficial. We do have special additives built into our EcoPact mixes so that the impact is kept very, very minimal. And even in the winter time, we do have a low, medium, and high dose of accelerators you can order while you're ordering the concrete. Again, depending on the application, if you're putting that concrete straight into the wall or column or into the footings, you do not need to worry about that quick set time as such. But if you're placing a slab structure, then yes, you would not want the guys to standing around there till very late in the evening and that time. And even the traditional concrete will take 8 to 10 hours for that concrete to go off in the middle of cold Melbourne winter. So the EcoPact, the impact will be slightly more. However, it's up to that 90-minute mark. So both, whether you use traditional concrete or EcoPact concrete in the middle of winter, you will need to use accelerator, different dose rates, depending upon what that structure is.
And I'll just throw one last question at you before I wrap things up. And this is a great question. Is Agilia available as triple blend or as a carbon offset product? So is it available in the EcoPact range?
So look, again, EcoPact mixes are both triple blend as well as the binary blend. Now, when you order the EcoPact, depending upon the project location, the closest concrete plant, and the infrastructure at that concrete plant where we can carry all 3 supplementary cementitious, or we can carry only 2 supplementary cementitious, we will offer either a 28-day compliant mix or a 56-day compliant mix. Again, that 56-day compliant mix, that doesn't mean that you will have to wait all the way to the 56 days to get that 25 or 32 or 40 MPa strength. Now, Zero is another, which is a service provided on top of the EcoPact concrete. So EcoPact concrete, you can get it from any concrete plant within Melbourne or within Victoria or South Australia or anywhere in Australia. However, the only difference it will be, depending upon that closest plant, it will be a 28-day or 56-day compliant. Now, EcoPact Zero is a service we provide. We can provide from any concrete plant on any EcoPact mix from any for any project.
Great. Look, I'm going to wrap it up now because it is getting a bit late, and a couple of kids are going to get home too. Thanks so much for joining us, guys. It's really informative. Like the the volume of questions that have come through and the positive comments that have been coming through is really great to see, and it's so great to see a big company like Wholesome, getting on the front foot on a topic like sustainability and reducing their carbon is amazing. You can see some contacts there to get in contact with Naz, and by all means jump onto wholesome.com.au and Wholesome. Thanks very much for sponsoring this webinar and allowing it to be a free webinar for everyone to come and have a look. I will wrap things up by saying, please don't forget to listen to episode 3 of our podcast, which is the Sustainable Builders Yak, where Simon and Brian catch up with one of our other founding members, Michael Lim, where they talk about construction waste. You can check that out on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. This is the last webinar for 2021. Our next webinar will be around about the middle of February, where we'll be joined by Joe Diallo from Hemp Build Company, and he'll be talking to us about hempcrete as a building product, which is super exciting. We've currently got one under construction at the moment. Thanks to everybody who has supported us this year and listened to our webinars, followed us on Instagram, listened to our podcasts. We have some really exciting things that are happening in 2022. We can't wait to launch a couple of things which we've been working on all year. I hope you all have a great Christmas, and if you're much like myself and some of the other directors at Builders Declare, we're really looking forward to a good long break over Christmas. But please do reach info@buildersdeclare.com. You can get in contact with us on Facebook and on Instagram. Sushant and Naz, thank you so much for joining us today. And I will definitely be giving this a run early in the new year. I've got a couple of slabs going down, so I'm really excited to give it a test run, and I'm more than happy to give any feedback to any of the people watching.
Thank you very much for having us.
Beautiful. Yeah, thank you very much. And let's work towards a more sustainable 2022.
Awesome. All right, guys, thanks very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.